the Mishcon Academy digital sessions.
Good morning. I'm Paul Clements-Hunt from, I'm a director with Mishcon Purpose, which is the sustainability arm of the UK law firm Mishcon Purpose. And we're delighted that you're joining us on this session looking at ESG in law and making sustainable finance work for all. The reason Mishcon Purpose is doing this is we feel there's a huge opportunity for the legal world in its broadest sense, from the judiciary through law firms, through individual lawyers, to play a far more proactive role in driving sustainability. So all the key issues, climate change, the protection of natural assets, the issues around social issues around human rights in the supply chain, whichever you pick, there is a huge opportunity, but also huge challenges out there for the law to step forward and work with their clients, whether it's general counsel inside companies or whether it's external counsel working with clients to drive the sustainability agenda. And what we've taken here is that there is a massive role for the entire investment chain, capital markets, large institutional investors, the entire financial ecosystem to play a role in actually helping us deliver the Sustainable Development Goals. What we're doing is we're pivoting around the question of how can you, as a company, as an investor, as the client of a law firm, what can you expect from both external counsel, general counsels, in terms of helping you understand how sustainable finance can benefit you, how we can flow capital into this space in a way that it delivers results, and in a way that it delivers results at scale to address these massive problems. Karen, where is South Africa now? What's your feeling as a non-executive director and advising boards? Where do we sit with sustainable finance? What's the picture in South Africa?
In terms of sustainability, I think we're still in a difficult place. Yes, there was a lot of leading edge work in the early 90s, or the early 2000s, and quite a lot of events happening. South Africa's renewable energy program started to look really promising. Two things happened, which I think are instructive for this conversation or helpful for this conversation. And one is that the first tranche of renewable energy projects, which were requested for tendering into the government energy system, the state-owned energy company, were landed with such exorbitant finance and legal fees that renewable energy became classified as too expensive. The coal mining industry, of course, is a huge employer in South Africa. And this need to move away from fossil fuels throws up not only environmental challenges, but it throws up big social challenges. There are a lot of financial products out there. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange does have a board for green bonds. It's not particularly heavily subscribed. However, if you look at the international green bond market or climate bond or sustainable bond market, it's huge.
Daniel, what's your perspective as a company, privately held, but working in the markets and with sustainability right at the heart of what you do?
We need, and I have a legal degree, although I don't work only with law right now. But we, as lawyers, we do need to get closer to business. In order to provide good advice, you need to be somehow have a very good risk management system. You have to go beyond law. You have to go to reputation, for instance. Law is always, often I would say, but almost always behind society. We do have certain laws that create mandates and open up markets, for instance, but usually it's behind society. So if you're being provided advice on what is legal or illegal, you're behind. So what lawyers need to do is to understand what society wants, what the investors community wants, and it's important to sit down with them and say, what's important for you now? That you see more often in-house lawyers than outside counsel. Although I have very good experience with outside counsel, once you get to work with them over time, they're almost in-house counsels as well. But I think that's a very important aspect that we need to improve over time. So I would like to see law schools having more business classes than what we have now.
Do you get the sense that the sustainability piece is at least flowing in and through Brazilian legal circles in a more embedded way?
Brazil has had very strong ESG cases, I would say. On the social piece, sanitation is a piece of the social agenda, but educational agenda, environmental agenda as well. But on the social piece, Brazil is a country of disparity. On the environmental agenda, we have huge forests. We have the Amazon, for instance, not our only forest, but we do have the Amazon. That's kind of a lung to the world, and that's seen like this, although it's misleading somehow. And on the governance side, Brazil has had the highest fines on corruption of the history. So very much an ESG case.
What perspective are you bringing to this conversation, given some of the focus, the contentious issues, the conflict issues around credit rating in the context of sustainability and ESG? Your perspective would be welcome, Daniel.
So in my world of credit ratings, the regulations are being formed as we speak in terms of the Edinburgh reforms that were put forward last week in the UK contained elements where they will now formally regulate ESG rating agencies. The EU is doing the same. Japan has just started. It's a very new and nascent market that a lawyer will have to advise on at some point, because the applicability of credit ratings and ESG ratings to everything to do with capital, which is at the heart of this move to make finance more sustainable. I think for me, it's a case of trying to break through that complexity that's often put into the processes on purpose. And I know we're working together on a project on greenwashing at the moment and what that takes. And also championing events like this and projects like this. So I know Mishcon are trying to push it for this sustainability approach. I know other firms are doing it, but I think there's much more that can be done to spread knowledge of these core nuanced issues, to share that knowledge around more. So you have events like this to share and create different elements and pathways for investigation. So the credit rating agencies are one very small component of a large framework, but I think they're instructive of they're in a very nascent mode. That means the risks are increasing, but coincidentally, so are the opportunities, and lawyers need to be on top of that for their clients so they can take advantage and protect from both.
Sean, I'm going to come to you first, but it's that idea, and you said it, you don't have lawyers working on investment policy and decision making. They're a facilitator, but as someone who's run huge amounts of money, what do you think the future lawyer looks like inside big asset managers? Can you give us a snippet?
That said, here one of the most important issues we need to tackle is that term ESG is so broad that depending on how you want to apply it, there's almost nothing you can do from an investment standpoint that wouldn't trip over one wire or another. With intentionality and clarity of purpose as to what it is that the investment will approach, if we start with that, and then can parse out those issues that are and are not relevant, I think that's not only the way things are going, but that also makes this overwhelming challenge a little bit more tractable.
How have you done that prioritization as BOK Ambiental? Because you've gone beyond sanitation. You do really look at social value in the chain. And Karen, the same for you, perhaps from a mining perspective. Where are those priorities? The collective mind of the board, what do they focus on? Daniela, over to you, and then Karen.
Our business is very related to the ESG agenda. once you do sanitation in a city, either water or wastewater, which is has more of a hidden aspect as to the benefits, you do change a community. It's correlated to the environment because you are cleaning the rivers by doing sanitation. So you're not collecting wastewater and just dumping into the river. The cities are changing that and treating wastewater in order to be reused or put into the river. That's the environmental benefit. Same thing with respect to social. You mentioned education, but we do have researches relating to the gender agenda for women. Having sanitation allows for women to have a fixed job, as since they tend to be the ones responsible for taking care of sick children and also the elderly that when they get sick. We also have had very many projects actually in our agenda that are the main purpose is to show to that community that we are there beyond sanitation, and that's part of our purpose. We beyond sanitation is on our purpose.
Daniel, right? Credit rating agencies looking at different different types of companies. Are they beginning to factor in the valuation creation piece of sustainability well enough?
From an investment standpoint, these risks that can arise from any of the issues that we that we discussed or that we include in the canopy of ESG, any one of those risks effectively gets priced into the value of an asset. So the way we would look at it is by having those ESG advantages, you reduce the risk, and that risk reduction therefore increases the value of the assets.
Daniel, in terms of unpacking that in the context of credit rating, whether it's the large players, the Moody's, S&P, Fitch, AM Best, or it's the specialists, how are you reading that?
I mean, the main thing here is that these companies who are embedding value creating elements need to show that in order to almost get the financial reward for doing so in terms of lower cost of capital, what have you. And to their part, the credit rating and ESG rating agencies are doing their part. They're investing heavily in their ability to analyze a company's processes and their objectives and what have you, so that they can signal to the marketplace that this company is much better positioned moving forward for that release of capitals.
Karen, thank you for being patient. And let me sort of, in some ways, reframe it, bouncing off what Danielle had said in the sanitation context, right? Mining is both that huge sustainability challenge, but it is the sustainability option of the future. How do you read that in terms of both the risk and the opportunity side?
I think the big factors for the mining industry is the time factor, is that the longevity of product or of process or of project does accord with the sustainability timeframe. It's also a long time frame, but the absolute need to develop and to produce or be seen to produce value in the short term is a major disabling factor in terms of getting true focus on the long term. What we are seeing really positively is even in the commercial finance field, as opposed to the project finance field, you're starting to get financial institutions introducing ESG factors into conditionality of lending. So commercial banks who will say, even for a corporate facility, you need to demonstrate some ESG credentials. In the mainstream mining industry and the listed companies, they are starting to try and link to the SDGs. They are starting to try and demonstrate to communities this long-term value, but we're nowhere near where we need to be.
How I'd like to finish is that just again, your general sense of as a lawyer or as a law firm or as general counsel, what are the steps you need to take to do the prioritization, to see where the focus should be, to help the clients or your company begin to make the Wild West not so wild, if I can put it that way.
I'd love to see it more widely developed, that law firms worked with law schools to develop sustainability within the legal curriculum.
I really think that the law firm of the future needs to ensure that at every level, ESG is factored into the advice they give, the contracts they look at, and how they interact with the clients that they have.
Companies do have to have that element of retention at their core. You get questions all the time and interest on what your business does to the community.
If there's a fundamental change in the way that we need to do things going forward, I would be looking to where is there evidence that this law firm actually is investing in the sort of things that will give the firm the ability to deliver that value to me as a client. And from a business standpoint, what I would say is it's obvious to me that there's a great opportunity for those firms that can deliver that capability. The question is, will law firms be willing to adapt the way that they do business, fundamentally change the skill sets they're looking for to deliver on that?
Sean, Daniel, Daniela, Karine, lovely to have Brazil, South Africa, UK, US in play. The hour's gone very quickly. I hope that our participants, thank you for joining us and staying with us. This is our last event for the year, so wishing everyone a good festive season and a really positive and hopeful start to 2023 after the let's say the challenges in different levels of 2022. Thank you everyone for joining us. Really appreciate it, and it was a privilege to moderate you. So from Paul Clements-Hunt and Mishcon Purpose, goodbye, good end of year. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
The Mishcon Academy Digital Sessions. To access advice for businesses that is regularly updated, please visit mishcon.com.